All right. Welcome, everyone, to Healing Starts with the Heart, the podcast. This is Erica, and I know you're normally not used to hearing me start with the intro, but for once in her lifetime, Sharon took a day off and she is out of the office. So I'm in control today, which we don't know when this will happen again. So I'm going to enjoy this. Today, I have a very special guest, my son, Jordan Jones. We've talked about him a lot, so you guys have heard from me a lot about him. But this time, I thought it was a good idea for you guys to hear from him what his experience has been like grieving and how it's changed for him over the years. So, Jordan, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and give us a little bit of your story?
What's up, y'all? My name is Jordan Jones. I am, I am a freshman student at Midwestern State University. I am studying criminal justice, and I really don't know how else to describe myself at the moment.
So give us a little bit of everybody knows our story. Everyone who listens to the podcast knows our story. And I've shared a lot about your perspective, but this is the first time they're hearing it directly from you. So give us from your version, how things played out for you.
Well, I mean, let's see, go back those years. The worst day, would have to be the day I found out when we woke up in that hotel room and you and dad got a call, and, all I was screaming and just commotion. And at first I feel bad to admit it, but at first I thought that you guys got a bad call about Granny. So then I started worrying about Granny, and then you guys came in, and then you guys told me the news, and it took my breath away. I couldn't stand, I couldn't think. I was stuck in that moment. It was really weird. Of course, I'd already, acknowledged that I'd lost Austin, and just the fact that I was, had to come to terms that not only did I lose another brother, but I truly lost my best friend. And it hurt. It really hurt.
Yeah. So that was about Donovan when Donovan passed away, but do you remember anything about Austin passing away? Do you remember anything about that time? Because you were so tiny. You were 3 years old.
No, not at all. That's probably the biggest grief I would say I have about Austin, is the fact that I don't have as much memories as I have with him than I do with Donovan, because I was so young. Really, I can only really think of one memory of me and Austin when, we were up to shenanigans and on top of grandfather's car, covering it with snails, getting in trouble. But what I can really remember is us at the San Jose house, and you showed me a website that somebody put up for Austin, and there was a voice thing for him, and it had his voice on there. And I remember I just kept playing it back and playing it back and playing it back. But that was the only recollection I have of him.
Yeah. So then I'm going to move forward, going back to Donovan. You were 12 years old when Donovan passed away. And you're going to be 19 this month. So how has the grief changed for you over the years?
I've noticed myself that it has changed. But what I will say about grief is that no matter what happens, it does get better. Your situation will get better. If you get the right help, if you're around the right people, it will get better. But I think that maturing and, without having my best friend to guide me, he's older than me, so he's supposed to tell me what to do. having to take those steps on my own, I mean, it kind of made me like wake up, kind of.
Yeah. Yeah. So you've kind of trial and error learned some things.
Yeah.
And then to, make our lives even more complete, we added Kayla into the mix. So you went from having two brothers to no brothers, and then you got a sister. What was that like?
That was really really strange. I mean, obviously we had Kayla back in California, and having her around was really fun because Donovan was already out of the house doing his own thing, and I was pretty much by myself, besides going to school. And when Kayla came around, we were always hanging out, either going to 7-Eleven, watching movies, or doing who's know what. But when she finally officially came into our lives, it was really nice at the time because I mean I felt my lowest right there, and I mean of course it didn't fill the hole in my heart that I was feeling, but it was really good to have her there.
Mhm. So you were saying that, grief does get better if you get the right help. So I know, as, parenting while grieving, I say this all the time. Parenting while grieving is one of the hardest things to do, because not only was I worried about my broken heart and how I was going to get through each day, I then had you and Kayla depending on me and me trying to get you through your day. So I know there's a lot of times I failed and stumbled, because that was a very, very hard grieving experience, after losing Donovan. How did I help you, and what are the ways that you felt supported by me during that time?
Uh, I mean, as much as I hate to express my feelings and talk, you were always there. You always, asked me like how I felt about things and made me go into detail to actually get my feelings out instead of having me compress them down and then turning out worse than me actually telling you. But yeah, just really just being there and actually trying to get to the root of the problem.
And there was a point in time where we actually got outside counseling, because I felt like we were in a situation where I couldn't be the one to help you, because you definitely did not like to open up. As much as we did talk, you still stuffed a lot of things. What was that like for you? Was that helpful?
uh I mean, in a way, because I mean, I guess it was just an outlet for me to really get everything I needed out. Um, but I still felt as if I was still like holding back, not really searching like what was really wrong. But that was a me problem. But counseling did help.
And what have you learned about grief, just from your personal experience? What personally have you learned about grief?
Um, hmm. what I have personally learned about grief is to surround yourself around the people you love,
Mm.
no matter how sad, angry, or confused you feel at the moment. The best place to be, even if you feel alone, be with at least one person that couldn't hurt you. But just being with people, being around people made it 100 times easier.
Mhm. T. Sharon and I have done a couple shows about, like, young people who have experienced grief early on, whether they lost a parent or a sibling or a grandparent, and the family kind of doesn't really move past the pain. So it's almost like these kids were like raised in grief, so it's like their first really heavy emotions were grief. Do you feel, because Austin died when you were 3, Donovan died when you were 12, and then grandfather passed in between. I think you were 10 when grandfather passed away. Do you feel like you were raised in grief?
Uh, no, I mean, of course, there was a lot of bad passings in our family and a lot of influential ones too. But no, I don't believe that I was raised in grief. I just believe that there is a different plan and things happen. But uh, I mean, grief is a way of life. I mean, it'd be a blessing if you could go a whole lifetime without experiencing grief, but it is what it is.
Yeah. And if you had to speak to parents, because we work with a lot of different parents and they don't know what to do with their kids, how to help them. What would be a few things that you would suggest that they do in order to help their kids to feel supported?
Well, if it were a case like me and you have a child who doesn't really feel comfortable expressing his feelings, I would say the best thing is patience. Not like give him weeks or months at a time, but like ask him how he feels. If he doesn't feel up to it, then try a different approach, maybe sometime later that day, or maybe even try to like get out of him while you two are doing activities or when his mind's not, on lockdown. Try to ease him towards, expressing how he feels, and it'll be more easier for them. But if you have a child and they're easier to express, I mean, that's in the writing, but I would say that patience is key.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've been told by several people in our community who have experienced loss that you are very helpful. You reach out to the people who have lost a loved one. You're very expressive. Do you feel for them? Is it because you feel you know what that feels like that you want to be there for them? Like what guides you to like take that first step and that initiative?
It's that firsthand experience. Like, of course, from what I've learned from you is that I firsthand do not know how they feel. I don't know what type of grief they're experiencing, but I felt grief. So I try my best to help them any way that I can. But it's just that feeling that like I've felt what they have felt. So I know that I wouldn't want anybody to feel that way. I wouldn't even want my worst enemies to feel that way. So if I could help it any way, I will.
Mhm. And it's been definitely they appreciate it because I know, like I said, it's been people in the community who have experienced personal loss, and you try to be very supportive for them. Do you think you would be able to have that if we didn't have our experiences? Do you think that that would just be part of your personality?
Yeah. I tend to really check on my friends if they feel low. Um, I mean, I personally I like to check up on people. Uh, if I haven't talked to somebody in a while, I'll be like, oh dang, I haven't talked to them. So I reach out to them, see how they're doing, and I I just try to be there for everybody.
Which is very sweet. It's very sweet. And I want to, so, having the situation, Donovan was 12 when Austin died. You were 12 when Donovan died. And Donovan and I were, we were pretty tight. Do you feel like I compare you two? Do you feel compared to your brothers? Do I do that to you?
I mean, yeah, but it's not a bad thing. I mean, there's been two other versions of me, and I mean, I do things that they did, good or bad. But
Yeah.
of course, I feel like that would raise some similarities.
Tell me one of your favorite stories about Donovan.
Oh my god! Oh my god! There's so many. Um, let's see. It would probably hmm, it would probably have to be the story about him and Nanny at the beach
And what happened? I don't know if I know this story.
when they were at the beach and she was telling them to put on sunscreen, and obviously Donovan had to come back. With Donovan come back, and it didn't work out too well.
Well, you have to explain it for our listeners. They don't know what you're talking
Okay.
about.
So Donovan, my brother, and my aunt were at the beach, and she was telling him that he needed to put on sunscreen. And my brother's favorite comeback was, "You need to do something." If you came at him saying that you needed to do something, he'd come back and be like, "You need to do something." So she's like, "Donovan, you need to put on sunscreen." And he goes, "Well, you need to put on sunscreen." And then, oh my God, I can't remember what she says after that.
Yeah, no, he said your mom needs to put on
Oh,
sunscreen.
yeah, your mom needs to put on sunscreen. And oh my God, she said, uh, did she say her mom had cancer?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, his Donovan's comebacks were like, he said, Peggy told him, you better put on sunscreen or else you're going to get skin cancer. And he said, your mom is going to get skin cancer. And she says, my mom does have cancer, you little jerk. And then Uncle Keith almost wrung his neck. It was a typical Donovan. Donovan was the president of the pretty committee and always putting his foot in his mouth. But that was a classic Donovan moment. Yeah. I think that it's so funny. I had a memory pop up today on Facebook, and it was, I had taken you out. Donovan and I used to take Donovan out on dates all the time, me and him. And I had taken you out, and I had made a post about it to Donovan saying how similar you two were. Cause I asked you, hang on, let me get on my phone. I asked you, tell me 3 things that you loved about yourself. And you said, it's typical Donovan. Like, I can't believe how Donovan like you sounded. You said, I'm sexy. What did you say? I'm sexy. I get all the ladies. Hold on. Oh, I'm sexy, I'm funny, and I'm charismatic. That's what you said. And then I said, you can't even spell charismatic, but it was so funny. But that was one of the things that I tried to make a point to get quality time with each one of you, especially, during your teen years. And so this is me and you on one of the dates. And I was telling him in the post how proud he would be of you and who you were be turning, growing into. The one thing I know to be true is that he would be so mad that you would be taller than him.
Oh yeah. Yeah. He'd be the little brother now. He'd be so angry. So angry.
He would not want to be looking up to you.
Oh yeah. And then to think that back then he used to use me as a chick magnet. Now he couldn't bring me around all the chicks.
I know, because you might try to make a team yourself. There'd be some competition.
Yeah.
So has the intensity that, like, it's like when Donovan first passed, we were in shock, and then we were numb, and then we were angry, and we were all these emotions. Has the intensity that you miss him, has that changed over time? Because now we're in 2022, we're going into the 7th year of his passing. Has it decreased, or is it still a lot for you?
Uh, it differs. I mean, on a regular basis, I would say that it has gone way down than before. But there's still some times where I'll just be sitting in a room and I'll get that feeling like, oh, I want to call my brother. And then you just you like the real life hits you and you're just like, dang, I can't do that anymore. But at those times, yes, that it hurts just like back then. But I mean, I just gotta buckle up and keep pushing.
So what do you do now? What do you do when those things hit you? Where do you go? Where do you put that emotion?
Um, I would have to say, I mean, whenever I really get low and I really miss my brothers, I just reminisce. I go look at pictures or memories that pop up and try to relive those good old days. We were back and younger, but yeah, that's really it.
So you don't like find someone to talk to, like someone close or like a friend. You don't like confide in people, because you're very different in that regard. Like, I'm very expressive. Donovan was very expressive. Dad is very expressive. Kayla's kind of, she's coming around, but you're a stuffer.
Yeah, yeah, I really do tend to stuff a lot of stuff in, but I mean, I don't. I mean, it wouldn't be my first choice. No.
Do you think you don't because you don't think people understand what you're going through, or you why do you choose to kind of hold things in?
I guess. I guess. Yeah. In a way. Um. Like I guess kind of feel like as if nobody does feel like nobody truly understands how I feel. Like I don't even know how I felt at the time, but um if I really do feel low, then yeah, I would reach out to somebody.
Mhm. And it's hard because as much work as we've done and as much as we've grown through our grief, sometimes I feel like I get in the mindset that, we like I it's like I feel like I want to have this deal with God. Like, okay, our plate is full. We can't take any more. We're not going to go through any hard situations. But unfortunately, we don't get to control that. So there still have been other challenging situations that we have experienced. And Sharon and I actually did a podcast because you lost your youth pastor that you were very, very close to. And for me as a mom, watching you go through that and experience another loss was very, very hard because I knew that you were hurting. And every time you come home, you make it a point to go visit with Jesse. What was that like?
Man, I mean, when I was in middle school, somebody had introduced me to a church in our hometown and didn't think really anything of it. But the more I went, the pastor that was there, his name was Jesse Fair. He, the way he just spoke, it just, it just like cut right through you. And it just like, it hit me different. Like it made me feel welcome. Like whenever I went there, he always said the right thing. And he was the first adult I never felt nervous to confront or to talk to. Like it was just always comfortable. Like I had known him for years. And but I will say I did lack the past couple of years. I stopped going because I was either working or in sports, but I still try to make an effort to go see him, but he got diagnosed with cancer and was on a he was battling for a while. And when he passed, I found the sad thing was I found out over Facebook somebody had posted it on the newspaper for how that he had passed away, and it was right before track practice, and I just broke down. I was on the bus up by myself because I was waiting for my teammates to get on, but before they got on, I just broke down. It just so weird. I thought that he was gonna get past it, he was gonna keep fighting, and then just like one day he was gone.
Mhm. When that happened, did that bring up all of your stuff about Donovan and grandfather? Like, did it bring up all your other grief, or were you able to recognize that Jesse's grief was just Jesse's?
Yeah, of course, it did bring up the other grief. It didn't bring up like uh the same I guess well, how do you put that? I don't know what I was gonna say, but it wasn't the same as how I felt when I lost my real family members, but it still carried a similar feeling. It was it was still that grief that you feel like when you lose somebody, and you just gotta really like sit down and really acknowledge it at first. But uh I mean, as soon as I found out, I mean, it was bad.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to wrap it up. So I want you to give me any final thoughts you have. Any final thoughts on grief? Any final thoughts on helping young people with grief? Just anything you can touch on.
Um, my final words for the listeners. I would say that grief does happen, and grief sucks. First off, but in times of grief, the worst thing to do is be alone. You don't have to be surrounded by family members. You don't have to be surrounded by friends. It could be people that you just met. It could be people that you work with. It can be people online, just anybody. As long as you feel comfortable to express your feelings and do not stuff them down, because that will hurt 10 times worse. But on the side note, for parents and kids experiencing grief, I would say patience is key, and don't force your kid to try to tell you what is wrong. Instead, have your kid want to tell you what is wrong.
That's great. Thank you. I think that's going to be a big help, because I think as parents, all we want to do is make it right. We don't want to see our children hurt. We feel like, we're the grown-ups. It's hard for us to take it, but we definitely want to see you guys take it. And I think that is going to be very helpful for a lot of our parents listening, to just be patient and wait until the time is right. And then hopefully their son or daughter will open up and express themselves the way that they need to. So thank you so much for that. And thank you for being willing to let me interview you today. I appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of your college day, sir. Go do your homework. Go study. All right, son. Thank you. Love you.
You're welcome. Love you too.
Bye.